Hey, what's up everyone? I had some positive feedback about the video we just released about the studio and the setup, but I did have some questions about the OBS settings in terms of audio, video, because there are some particulars about that and there are filters and things you can add. So what have I actually got enabled and how am I connecting everything together? So I want to go through that. Now, before I go straight into OBS, I do want to mention, though, that I have got this image on Canva. This is a 1920 by 1080 canvas, and I have a black circle in here. Now, please remember this, okay, because this is going to be important later on. What you want to do is kind of do this in Canva or any other bit of kit or Photoshop or anywhere. Make sure it's a transparent background, okay? Save it as a PNG or a JPEG or whatever. PNG is always a little bit better quality. Make sure it's a transparent background and it must be a black circle because basically this is how I've got myself into a black circle. You could put whatever shape you want here. So if you were to put like a hexagon, I would now be in a hexagon. You could do a triangle. You could have lots of like grunge-like lines coming out as well. You can do all of that. But this is how you do it, and I'm going to show you how you use that in OBS. Now, you're going to find this really annoying, because whenever I try and show off OBS in what I'm doing right now, you're basically going to get this, which is like the infinity screen of doom. There's no doom. It's just OBS shows you what you're recording. And then it shows what you're recording, It kind of just goes on for infinite. Like, it just goes on and on and on and on in the background there. And if I was to move myself here, you would eventually start to see that. So I've moved myself up here, so I hope that's okay with everyone. So what we have at the moment is OBS. You can actually see that I am currently recording as well. So look, my recording is going on, and you can see that it's currently hitting about 3 minutes there. That is also a great way of knowing how long your recording is. So maybe you don't want it to go over an hour or something. Obviously, you would edit it anyway. Right, what you have down here is basically the options to start putting things in. So I have my big screen. If I go to big screen and I go and click properties, what you're now going to see is my properties screen. You could, if you want, display your entire window. But because I've got a 49-inch screen, I don't want to show you 49 inches because then it will kind of stretch over here and you're going to get like the letterbox effect. So instead what I do, I go and hit application capture and then I go, well, what do I want to show you? So I want it to display whatever's on this particular monitor, which is a 49-inch monitor, 3840 by 1080. And then I go and decide, well, what are we going to see? So if I want you to see my Microsoft Edge screen, I can pick that. If I wanted to show you Google Chrome, if it was open, it would say Google Chrome here and I would pick it. But right now I'm showing you OBS. Now, why is that important? If you're recording from, say, a laptop, you probably won't need to do that. You will just capture whatever is on your screen. Okay, your application. Not your application, sorry, window capture. If, however, you've got a big screen like a 49-inch, when I'm doing tutorials and I'm recording like Elementor or Bricks or anything to do with Canva, WordPress, I'm only using a chunk of my screen. I can, if I want, get 3 equal-sized screens all the way across the 49 inches, but I don't need to do that. So on my screen, with a bit of a crayon, I've made a mark down in the left-hand side and at the bottom. So I know that if I put any window there, as long as I do not go bigger than this threshold here and longer that way, sorry, I'm moving my hands longer that way, it will fit perfectly. And when I was showing you Canva, that is the size. Now, if you have got a normal sized monitor or a laptop, you don't need to worry about that because it will be absolutely fine. But if you've got a big screen, just use the application method and set it accordingly. I'm sorry, I know I talk a lot and I'm going through things like that you probably don't care about. But if you ever get a big screen, you may want to utilize that because you don't need to show loads of letterbox, the black space or line above and below, because that's basically what you're going to get. When it comes to adding items though to OBS, it is so easy. You'll see here I've got like a screen, I've got 2 phone images, and then I've got lots of just normal image icons. So when you click the plus sign, this is where you now get to decide on what you want to go for. This one says audio input capture, audio output capture. Now, if you've got a microphone and it's plugged into your device like your Mac Mini or your laptop or your computer, you don't really need to worry about this. unless you're going to have additional microphones or additional sounds that are coming from elsewhere. So maybe you do want to pick up the audio from your sound system. So let's say you're now streaming or you're recording videos as you're playing a game. You got a microphone, that's going to pick you up. But now you also want to pick up the sound that your game is making because it's part of the, the experience. So then you might want to go for audio input capture as well. Browser, you don't need to worry about that really, because I would just be using whatever is on my screen. So I normally use the Mac OS screen capture. That will say Windows if you're on Windows. And basically what you do is you pick it, you give it a name. I'm just going to call this 222 for now, just so I've got a name in there. I then hit OK, and now I get to basically pick what I'm going to see. So this is now my display capture. Can you see this is my full 49 inches that I'm showing you? If I was to instead go to window capture, it's not really going to show you anything. So instead, I would go to application and I would now say, well, do I want to show you the Camo Studio, which is all the way over there? Do I want to show you Microsoft Edge, which is over there? Or do I want to show the OBS Studio, which is what I currently was showing you? And if I hit OK, that is now added to my OBS. But it is looking a little bit small, so I'm now going to increase it to get it to fill my screen. I'm going to get rid of this, by the way. I'm just going to go in and remove that, because basically that's all it is, right? This is how you can add in different screens. And if you want to have two screens on here, so you want to have like a screen here maybe and another screen below, because you want to show multiple screens, this is basically how you would do it. When it comes to the iPhone and the Circle iPhone, again, it's the same process. You just go and click this, and then it says, right, what do you want to capture? You give it a name. Once you've given it a name, and I'll just do this now here, it then says, well, what device do you want to pick up? Now, even though I'm using my wife's old iPhone Mini 12, because I've plugged into, well, basically I'm using Camo. If I was to pick up her phone like this, can you see here what I get on screen? Can you see that? I'm now getting the actual iPhone. And this is why I like to use Reincubate Camo. Because when I go to Reincubate Camo, did you see the difference? Those icons and things disappear. And I never understand why Apple don't just make it native for you to get rid of that. And yeah, I know they've got continuity camera, but I don't think continuity camera is that great. I really don't. I think Camo is far better. So when I'm using, oops, sorry, that was a bit of a flash then because I moved then. When you've got Camo camera installed, I then go and set my screen resolution. Now you could go for 1920 by 1080, but because I'm using the full 4K from my camera, I will obviously go for 3840 to 160. And when I hit OK, and look, there's my screen, which I have just added over here. In fact, no, sorry, I've just realized I've gone to the full screen here. There we go, look. So here it is. Here's the new one that I've just added, video capture device. And look, I can move it wherever I want. So I like to have it set for the full size of the screen, obviously. But I'm just going to get rid of this now because I already have I've got a bit of an itch on my nose. Sorry, I keep itching my nose. So I already have down here the Circle, well, sorry, I already have the iPhone. But you're now looking at the Circle iPhone. The Circle iPhone is exactly the same. I just added in another phone. I set it to be, make sure you can see these settings. I set it to be Camo camera 3840 to 160. So how did I now get this to be the Circle? If you right click and go to properties is where you would go if you wanted to change the source of it. The same with the screen. If you want to change it to now go from OBS to Camo to your Edge screen or your Chrome screen, you right click and go to filters. And you will notice I'm only using the image mask blend. I'm not using the crop because I use Camo now, and I'm not using any of this color correction. Look, if you were to go over here and hit a plus and pick color correction, this setting would appear. If I enable it, I can start to I can start to mess around. So if you want to do anything where you want to tweak what you actually see on screen, because you're not entirely happy maybe with how it's coming through, this is something extra you could do where you can basically just tweak it a little bit. And it's not a bad thing to do this sometimes depending on the quality that's coming through. I'm going to disable that by just hitting the eyeball. I mean, look, that does look a little bit smarter. You know, you have to play with it and have a bit of a think about that. I mean, that is actually looking smarter. I might tweak with this again at some point. Anyway, what I have got is the image mask blend. Now, when you select this, and I've enabled it from here, so it's the image mask blend, all I've done is set this to be the alpha channel, which it will default to anyway, so don't go and tweak that. And over here, and I hope you can see it properly, I've then gone and browsed for my circle. So I've saved it as new black circle July 23 because I changed the orientation of it a little bit. Make sure you've got a black circle with a transparent background. That does actually default to white anyway, so leave it as white. And now you have a circle. And this is how you get your circle in OBS. In a nutshell, right, that was the settings for just getting the video and showing what you want to do on screen. I'm going to go through some more settings. If I go and click settings, oh, by the way, I have added in some images as well. So this over here is an image that I can show at any time I want. It is an image created in Canva. All I did was the bottom and the top of it, transparent background. Download as a transparent background, image, whatever, PNG. And you can throw that in and, you know, you can add in whatever you want. You know, there's more stuff you can do. If you want to add in particular overlays, it's quite funny that, isn't it? Can you see the infinity effect? Look, and it's going off to infinity and beyond, wherever beyond is, right? Okay, now let me just go over some of the other settings that you should take some interest in. And I'm now just going to move myself. Let me just cancel myself. And I'm just going to rearrange myself to be something like that. Right, we're now going to hit the settings option, okay? So my audio is already automatically coming from my Fifine microphone because it's plugged in. If it was not plugged in, or if it wasn't already defaulting, I would go in and go, right, what do you want to use? If I use camo microphone, it's going to be from my iPhone, which is, you know, more than arm's reach away. So that's not a very good idea. Maybe, I mean, look, you do have, default would be coming from your Mac Mini 2 now, which would be a really bad idea. Like, if you've got a MacBook laptop, unless it's really close to you, bad idea to just use your default, okay? And I don't need to worry about any other microphones because there is nothing else really activated at the moment. This is all I'm using. If I go to video, I have made sure that my resolution is 3840 by 2160 because that is what I'm using. You may be using a really wide monitor or really tall monitor or even a TV, and they're going to have their own particular resolutions. Here's what I strongly recommend. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're using as your video source. It's what people will be using on YouTube or elsewhere, Vimeo or anything. If they have the facility to watch in 4K, it will be 3840 by 2160. If they watch in 1080p, it will be 1920 by 1080. So if you're going to broadcast or you're going to record in 4K, set to 3840 by 2160. And that's the reason why I have marked on my screen, just with a crayon, how tall and how wide does it need to be? Because if you just go and record on a big, like TV screen, maybe whatever, or a wide monitor, and then you send it to YouTube, it ain't going to look optimum to how you want it to look. So just mark it, and that's it. I now know that it's always going to be broadcast in that. The stream, though, is more for YouTube streaming, where when you go to YouTube Studio, you'll get a secret key, a stream key. You drop the stream key in, and that's it. That's all I've done there. Okay, there's nothing else I've touched except the audio, which I'm going to come back onto in a moment, okay? As far as OBS goes, that is it, all right? I don't need to... There's loads of other stuff you can do here. I don't need to worry about that, all right? I'm just going to record, edit in CapCut Pro, stream via YouTube Studio, and there'll be settings for that. When you go to YouTube Studio, it tells you what you need to do. But the only other thing I would now do is my audio settings, and I feel like this is important. Even though I have a Fifine dynamic microphone, and it is so good, and I love it, I still feel like I need to refine the microphone a bit. So I'm going to go over here to my microphone now, and I'm going to click 3 dots. Okay, let me just click that again, and you will see the options for advanced audio properties, properties, and filters. The properties is basically just going to be, well, what are you feeding in, which we know is the Fifine. So you don't need to touch that unless you've got multiple microphones and you want to make sure you're picking up the right one. What you want to go for is the filters. And over here, I have allowed 4 different filters: the noise suppression, the 3-band equalizer, the expander, and the compressor. With the noise suppression, I have gone for RN noise, good quality, more CPU usage. Now, if you are using a really old machine, you are probably going to have to go for speaks, okay? Because you're going to be ramming and pushing your machine to the hardest. But I've got a Mac Mini M2. This is fine on an M1 chip as well. Just make sure you've got a good processor in your computer and you should be fine. So I've gone for good quality, more CPU usage. And I can tell you now, there is no whirring fans or noises coming from my machine, and I've never had the issue when I had a MacBook Air M1, which I still have, but I don't really use for recording purposes anymore. By the way, if you hit the plus sign, here's what you have, but you'll notice I've only used these 4 at the moment. But the 3-band equalizer, I found, and you will have to test this out, rather than everything being set at 0, I set my mid to be minus 2.1 Can you see this properly? Yeah, you can. Minus 2.1 decibels, and my low is 2 decibels. I have found that if look, let me just show you what would happen if I was to increase that up now to be like something like this. Right, how does that sound? And what if I go really low down there? How does that sound? I'm not sure because I'm just playing it back to you. So I'm going to pop that back to minus 2.1. Let's now do it on the low one. Let's now go really high over here. Well, it's really high on the low, which is like a paradox in itself. Then we go really low over there. I'm not sure how this is going to sound. It's probably going to sound really awful. So let's just pop this back to be 2. And what about the high? Let's just go really high like that. And then we go really low. And I bet it, I don't know. You're probably going to hear some like distortion or contortion, reflexation, hypertension, paradoxical things going on with the sound. Anyway, that's the 3-band, that equalizer. The expander. I have set my ratio. Basically, I'm going to leave these values on screen. I'm not going to start to say I understand all of these. There was a bit of experimentation, and I found that this worked. So my detection is RMS, my preset is expander, and then there my ratio, my threshold, my attack, my release, my output gain. They are my values, okay? I'm not going to go over and over them. What does attack mean? I don't know. Well, I kind of do. What does release mean? And all that. I'm not going to go into all of that, but they are my values, so please take note of those. And then I got my compressor. Again, I played around to get this to be right. They are my settings again. I found that this greatly improved the sound quality, and it made it sound more like a studio. So if you go and watch some of my videos from about 3 months ago, I was not applying these settings. And the sound was okay. It was pretty okay. But when I did this, there's more of a studio boom noise now. There's more of a hey kind of thing. And when you put on a deep voice, hey, how you doing? You can kind of almost feel it. Whereas if you're high pitched, it's not too bad either as well. So they are my sound settings. So as far as OBS goes, they are my fantastic settings. And I hope you found that useful. OBS, look, believe me, there are other brilliant solutions out there, okay? Do not get me wrong. EVCam, ScreenFlow, Streamlabs. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. What was it? Revolution I can't remember what it's called now. There's loads of different solutions. I prefer OBS because it's free. Now, OBS is not the greatest if you are trying to do multi-streaming like with guests. And instead, I use EVCam. Not EVCam, EVMux. I got that wrong. I use evmux.com that you can use for free. You can have up to like 10 or 12 people multi-streaming with you. So if you're doing interviews and guests. However, I did not like the EVMux logo that you have over here. So I paid £20 a month to get rid of that. And I have a few more extra features enabled as well. But if you don't mind the EVMux logo that you will have in, it's quite a big logo. It's not small, but it does sit up there. evmux.com you can use for free, and it is fantastic. You don't need to use OBS then. You just log into EVMux. You say what your microphone is, you say what your camera is, and everything feeds through. But OBS, I love using it because it is free, and that's what I've been using now since June 2021 when we first started doing the YouTube channel and the video and the tutorials. Hey, I'm Imran Web Squadron. I hope you like, subscribe, share, and follow. I hope you learned something. Take care. See you soon.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss that.